The anime starts with a scene of an airplane turbine spinning, but it cuts to a scene of a couple in the snow, where the girl seems to be leaving and the city is all destroyed. In the airplane scene, it seems like a meteorite is approaching while a child watches the vehicle from a distance. Back to the couple, the boy holds the girl's hand and tells her not to go, and she lies down in the snow with him while a clock bell rings in the distance. They embrace, and the girl mentions that she already knows something before they kiss. Then we see the airplane being hit by the meteorite, and the child starts crying. As the scene with the couple ends, it is revealed that it was a manga that was being read by this girl in a beanie named Fuko Azumo. She has just finished her favorite manga and laments not having had a youth like the one in that story. She then says that since she has already read her favorite manga, it's time to put an end to her own life. However, there is another person nearby, a man who tells her that this situation is dangerous. Fuko says she just wanted a chance to have a passionate romance like the one in the manga, but because of her condition, it will never happen, so she wants to end it. At this moment, she points a dagger at him, telling him not to interfere. The man remains calm, sipping his juice while the girl claims that if he touches her, he will contract an incurable disease and kick the bucket. Without caring about the dramatic speech, the man gets up and approaches, putting his chest directly against the blade. Fuko gets startled and screams, but the man continues unfazed, holding her by the chin and saying he has never heard of a deadly disease transmitted through touch. Then he releases her on the other side of the railing and comments that he touched her skin but feels nothing. Suddenly, the part where he is standing cracks and breaks with him, causing the man to be hit by a train. Fuko apologizes and laments that she took too long to jump and gave time for this tragedy to happen again. However, the man's head flies from out of nowhere, propelled by a jet of blood. He goes to her and says he understands that the disease story is just a cover to protect others. For now, let's ignore the fact that he's talking without lungs or a throat. Using the blood jet, his head hovers in the air for a moment and starts regenerating his body, even recreating the tattoos he had before. Ironically, the man says that today is his lucky day. Since his clothes don't regenerate, he's left naked, so the girl yells, calling him a zombie and landing a blow in his vulnerable spot. She then runs away while the man complains about being called a zombie. At least she didn't call him a masochist, right? As he hasn't regenerated his hands and feet yet, he uses the jets to reach the girl and says he's not like those bags of rotting flesh, he's just an undead, which can be translated as undead or non-dead. While holding her, the man asks about the bad luck that she seems to transmit. Then some police officers arrive, so he uses the jets to fly over the buildings to a rooftop. Suddenly, the undead breaks the fourth wall and explains that he uses the leg regeneration's impulse at high speed to generate the jet that allows him to fly. Fuko tries to escape, but the man still has some questions for her and pulls the girl by the leg, leaving her hanging upside down, not worrying about bad luck for now because he's only touching her clothes. When Fuko asks him to let her go, the man says it would be a long way down and returns to asking about her bad luck. The girl then says she doesn't care as she was planning to go down anyway. To test her courage, the undead man starts spinning her at high speed until she admits that she's scared and agrees to talk to him. With everything calmer, the girl tells that it all started 10 years ago when she was only 8 years old. She'd accompanied her parents to the airport before they took a flight abroad for a business trip. Since they would be away for a week, they hugged their daughter tightly to say goodbye. Fuko kissed them on the cheek and stayed to watch the plane, but half an hour later, the aircraft exploded, taking her parents and over 200 other passengers with it. That's how Fuko learned that people get hurt when they touch her, and she believes she caused all of it. She usually covers her skin to avoid causing more trouble. After hearing all of this, the undead man puts his hand under her shirt to perform another test. Suddenly, a cargo plane flies directly over them, and a box of bananas crushes the man. When Fuko realizes this, she runs away and the man regenerates. In the meantime, the girl steps on a banana peel and falls off the building, finding it humiliating to fall because of a banana. At that moment, her manga escapes from her pocket and the girl tries to grab it but fails. Suddenly, she realizes she's not ready for death yet. In the meantime, the undead man retrieves the manga in midair. He uses a leg bone to slow down the fall, along with the jet from his other leg, while holding the girl during the descent. He says he won't let her die because now that he has found someone with this power, he will finally be able to have a real death. The undead man also mentions that there's some rules she has hidden, and if he figures it out, he can make an even greater stroke of bad luck happen to finally end this long life. Thus, the man uses the jets to fly around and head to his hideout. Meanwhile, some men in black observe from a distance. Their leader, with a scar on his face, informs through a communicator that they will capture the girl after confirming her ability. In the hideout, the undead man discovers that the longer the contact, the greater the bad luck. He says the next step is to test the contact area. He asks the girl to remove her clothes, so she runs away because she doesn't want to go through this, but also doesn't intend to reveal what else she knows about this power. In her haste, her blouse gets caught in a piece of rebar, exposing her extremely long hair. She starts to cry and says that no one can cut her hair. Any hairdresser ends up being cursed. In response, the undead man takes out a pair of scissors and starts cutting the girl's hair. He maintains continuous contact because he knows that as long as he touches her, the bad luck won't activate. He also reveals that he used to be a stylist many years ago. After the haircut, he uses a piece of mirror to show the result, and Fuko is very happy. Since they were in contact for 15 minutes, the undead man is eager to see what the great stroke of bad luck will be this time. Suddenly, the agent who was holding the girl's head is decapitated. The leader stores the head in a special capsule to prevent regeneration, while another agent handcuffs the girl. It is then revealed that their job is to take care of people like these two. With the rainy weather, the leader appears to move rapidly with each lightning strike. He comments that the ability to nullify the luck of those who touch and eliminate that person is something incredible, perfect for an assassination. The only weakness is that the ability can be avoided with any fabric, making it easy to neutralize. Nevertheless, he believes the only use for this power is for murder, and he thinks the undead captured her for the same reason, since it would be a formidable weapon if she were to bow to his will. Fuko says the agent is wrong, as the man used bad luck on himself only with the intention of self-destruction, unlike the agents. The leader interrupts her and warns her to be careful with what she says. Still, Fuko comments that the zombie didn't wear gloves to touch her, unlike these men. She apologizes because all of this is happening because he touched her hair. Suddenly, a lightning bolt strikes the agent holding the capsule, causing it to fall into a hole, and the undead man flies back. The leader immediately puts the team into action, stating that firearms won't work on him, so everyone takes out their blades since, according to the information, the undead man is an amateur in combat. Upon hearing this, the man reveals that he is indeed an amateur in the present, but in the past, it was a different story. He removes a plaque from his forehead saying that the memory of this long life is too much for his head, so he uses it as a blocker. The man demonstrates incredible combat skills and easily defeats all the agents. He comments that he thought having his head cut off was the effect of the girl's power, but in fact, the bad luck from the haircut was that lightning strike, so they still need to test the time delay tricks. Cornered, the agent draws a katana and takes Fuko as a hostage, demanding that the undead man surrender his head without regenerating. Without thinking twice, the man begins to obey, leaving Fuko shocked. He says he's just trying to save her neck, even if he has to be captured. Fuko says she's tired of seeing people around her getting hurt and tells him to forget about her. But the man is already holding his head loose and jumps towards the agent. Then the girl remembers that she didn't tell him how to cause the greatest stroke of bad luck. When the agent is about to release her, Fuko gives him a shove and rushes to give a kiss to his head, way before the undead man falls into the agent's hand. The girl says she did it because she thought it was cool to be able to touch someone without any worry. Seizing the opportunity, the undead man regenerates and subdues the opponent while the girl escapes. He says the agent's luck ran out when he met these two. Suddenly, a meteorite falls and hits the place where they are, destroying everything and pushing Fuko with the impact. She remains alone for a while, but soon the zombie appears, a bit burnt. He admits he's never taken a hit from a meteorite before. The man also praises the girl's move. Later, Fuko finally tells her name and asks for his name, but the man says he doesn't remember and thinks being called undead is good enough. Fuko is not satisfied with that, so she gives him a name herself, calling her new friend Andy because of the word undead. The man doesn't mind, and she soon comments on how a simple kiss caused so much havoc, so they'll have to go further. Upon hearing that, the girl runs away again. Andy manages to corner Fuko, still with the intention of committing a more intimate act to see if he can trigger a massive wave of bad luck that defies basic rules about contact and duration. He wants to test this theory soon, but the girl isn't happy with the way he sees her as just a tool of death. Fuko wants to escape this situation because she doesn't want her first time to be with this jerk. Knowing that the guy only cares about the best that death has to offer, the girl decides to bet on the theory of sympathy. She mentions that besides her parents, she kissed her grandfather some time ago, but she was afraid of the scary dentures he used. At that time, the old man just twisted his legs and only went off base 3 years later, which is too long to relate it to Fuko's power. The theory is that the more she likes a person, the more significant the bad luck event becomes. With that said, the girl explains that if he tries to force her into something so intimate, she'll end up hating him forever, so his attempts at bad luck will never be good again. So Ambi is determined not to let her go until something happens between them. He takes the girl to a kind of base where he has an arsenal with various types of weapons. He explains that he set up several places like this around the world to confront those guys whenever he needs to. For Fuko, he gives her heavy armor, bulletproof and cut-resistant and resistant to chemical weapons, all as a protective measure against the guys from the day before. Fuko asks who they were, and Andy explains that they are an organization that monitors unidentified mysteries like them, so they can control them. It's almost certain that they will attack again on the same day. The girl thinks that the beating they gave to the agents may have scared the guys, but the man says that these people have their own aces in the hole, other guys and girls who deny the rules of this world, called deniers. The problem is that on the previous day, the enemies had a privileged view of the abilities of the duo, so these two are at a disadvantage. The man also reveals that 50 years ago, he was captured and suffered at the hands of the organization, being in a laboratory for 10 years. So if they manage to capture Fuko, they will surely take many lives to test her powers or even cut her fingers to see if they work separately from the body. All of this scares the girl and makes her want to get out of there soon. So they ride a motorcycle and pass through a demolition area. Andy is pretty relaxed despite not having any specific destination in mind. He just wants to keep running and protecting Fuko until she falls in love with him to create the most significant wave of bad luck he can. The girl thanks him for the protection but says she won't fall in love with him, but the guy is confident that she will because she is easy to manipulate. Suddenly, a crack appears in the sky, and the undead is already preparing, warning that this is how the Union organization teleports. From the crack emerges a giant armor that delivers a powerful blow to the undead. Concerned, Fuko tries to run to him, but ends up stumbling into a man with blue hair and eyes, named Shen. For some reason, the girl can't move her legs anymore. Soon, the one in the armor says to finish the girl quickly because the orders are to capture only the undead. Nevertheless, he wants to talk a bit with the girl. Out of nowhere, he asks how old she is and what her type is, trying to act as a seducer. Meanwhile, Andy regenerates half of his body and tries to attack the opponent with his sword, but ends up being paralyzed as well. Fuko thinks Shen is the one causing it, but he swears he isn't. Taking advantage of the man's immobility, the one in the armor attacks again, throwing him far away. When he can move again, Andy already has an idea of what's happening. Fuko says it's Shen's ability that's paralyzing both of them, but the undead disagrees because the girl can't move her legs, but he was completely paralyzed. So there are two different effects. He thinks the two opponents are target restrictor deniers, similar but with different rules for their abilities. Then the battle against the one in armor continues, with Andy realizing that he can attack after being hit, so he just needs to regenerate and counterattack. Meanwhile, Fuko talks to the other guy. He mentions that the meteor from the previous day didn't help at all, as her threat level increased from 5 to 8 on a scale of 0 to 10. So now, no matter how many hunters she avoids, there will always be threatening people after her. In other words, other deniers like them. When Fuko asks why he and his partner aren't being hunted, Shen explains that there are 10 denier members in a special Union team, and joining this team means they stop being pursued as long as they commit to missions. However, the person needs to pass some tests to enter. This excites the girl, thinking that if she and Andy join, they'll stop being pursued. However, the one in armor warns that all the spots are already taken. When he prepares to attack, Fuko realizes she's completely paralyzed, but the undead, who had just been a decapitated head, acts quickly to save her from danger. He also likes the idea of joining the hunting group instead of being hunted. All they have to do is eliminate these two to open up spots on the team. He finishes his speech by touching her chin. Then the girl gets up and touches the man's chest quickly. Only then do the opponents realize there was direct contact, but they're not concerned because it was a small area. Fuko says she's feeling a strong wave of bad luck, not because she's in love with him or anything like that, she just has a feeling of gratitude. Gradually, Andy approaches the duo when a tanker truck falls from the highway above and hits him along with the other two. The armor remains intact with Shen, who managed to protect himself just in time. Andy lures them to an abandoned building and starts thinking about the abilities of these opponents. The one in armor seems to negate the opponent's movements when in an attacking posture, so the power must be unavoidable. As for Shen, there isn't enough information. Andy decides to hide and use hit-and-run tactics until he figures out how to deal with them. However, at that moment, he notices some dynamite sticks about to explode near each column of the building. Soon, the construction is completely demolished. While running towards the wreckage, Fuko wonders if this is her fault or just a coincidence. Meanwhile, Unavoidable determines that the girl is too unpredictable to be a weapon. She's more like a disaster and must be eliminated. But first, he wants to deal with the undead. He tries to pull them by the hand, but it's a trap set by the undead. Andy appears, bites his index finger, and points at the opponent. When the enemy sees it's just a detached arm, Unavoidable tries to attack, but is hit through the armor's visor by the undead's fired finger. Andy calls this bullet parts, using his regeneration power to shoot body parts like projectiles. This attack only worked because Unavoidable negates only muscle movements when in an attacking posture, but not his regeneration. Then Shen approaches and realizes his partner is down. Andy still intends to finish off Shen to secure 2 spots on the team. Not knowing the exact power of this opponent, the undead is willing to die to figure it out as usual. The guy notices an opening in the opponent's stance and decides to attack from the right side, but he ends up being defended when he attacks with the left leg without noticing. Andy tries other attacks, but all are defended. Recognizing Fuko nearby, the guy asks for the katana. Continuing the exchange of blows, Andy says he may not know exactly what Shen negates, but his ability has to do with opposites. He intentionally provokes a gap in the defenses and prepares a defense on the opposite side, reversing the movements. When Fuko throws the sword, Andy asks what he can do against an attack he can't defend. The undead catches the sword with his shoulder and then with his hand to make an attack. This time he stops. Shen says that the guy hesitated for just a second to cut him, maybe because he doesn't like killing people or just doesn't want to do it in front of Fuko. The girl seizes the opportunity to try to touch the man, but he easily dodges it. As Shen climbs onto a rock, he says he won't reveal his rule to them, but he already warns that they won't be able to escape or touch him. At that moment, Annie questions why the girl threw herself into the battle. She apologizes, saying she thought it would work, but the guy says they are now in the opponent's line of sight. Shen asks which one of them will join the group. Andy immediately says it will be Fuko, while he is willing to be taken to the laboratory. When questioned by the girl, the undead explains that she wouldn't last a day without losing her head, and winning a girl with a screw loose would be a lot of work. Either way, he guarantees he will escape before she kicks the bucket. Even if she becomes an old hunchback, he will still win her over and get what he wants. Before accepting this, Fuko takes off her coat and throws it on the ground. She asks Shen to look away for a few minutes because she's about to do indecent things with Andy. The guy reminds her that she has to fall in love first, but she says that due to her ability, she has never experienced even a bit of romance in her life. So she doesn't know if she's in love or not, but with everything he's done and is willing to do for her, Fuko thinks she can't just abandon him without giving up something. She takes off her shirt as well and tells him to get started right there to try to create the bad luck Andy needs to go play for Vasco. With that, Shen bursts into laughter and says their relationship is too intense for 2 people who have only known each other for a day. He says these 2 are amazing, and it would be a crime to separate this pair. He then proposes a new plan. Now their goal is to eliminate another union member to secure the second spot, and he will speak highly of them. The guy explains that in 3 days, one of the deniers will be at Lake Baikal in Russia on a research mission. They just need to eliminate that guy. Shen also says they can identify the member by a red tie and an emblem. Of course, there will be people trying to catch them on the way, but at the moment, this is their only option. After Shen leaves, Andy complains about the girl's behavior because he doesn't consider himself a big enough scumbag to take advantage of a desperate girl. So Fuko says she won't do that again. With that, they need to go to Russia quickly. Andy's plan is to drive quickly to Niigata, take his yacht to the Russian port of Vladivostok, and then use a jet plane to get to Irkutsk. There, they will meet Andy's former war buddies for support in the battle, and then they will wait for the target at the lake. Since it's the land of vodka, and Fuko is 18 years old, Andy thinks they'll have time to drink a little when everything is over.